Hello, everyone. How are you? Good to see everyone. I hope
Mhm.
all are well. If you're here, then you are here joining the Physicist and Philosopher. I am the Philosopher, and my co-host, Dr. Claudia Albers, is
Yes,
obviously the physicist.
yes, I'm the physicist.
So, Claudia,
Yeah.
how are you? It's cold, huh?
Oh, it's very cold. I'm not used to this. Maybe you never get used to it, but I'm definitely not because I was born in Africa. Where it's a lot warmer.
Yeah, I mean, when you think of Africa, I think of safaris, hot, yeah, savannah, that
Yeah,
kind of thing.
yeah,
Yeah,
I've been on safari.
yeah. I haven't. Although on the National Geographic Animal Channel, twice a year they do live safari events where, so it's very cool. Anyway,
Yeah,
we'd have to
it's a
talk
lot of
about that.
fun.
Well, it looks like it would be a lot of fun.
It's a
So
lot of fun, except they make you get up and go for a drive at 5 o'clock in the morning so you can go to the water holes and see the animals
makes
drinking.
sense.
And only after that do they take you back for breakfast.
Really?
Yes.
When you were saying that, and the thought entered my mind, if you make it back for breakfast, because you
Oh,
might be
yeah.
someone else's. So, delight us in the tales. I'd like to know, did you see, what kind of animals did you see?
Yeah, I saw everything. I saw elephant, lion, the big ones. And we even had an encounter with an elephant with a cub, with
A
a
baby
little
elephant?
one.
That
And
probably was not a. I don't know. I mean, instinct tells me
that's
that
very
that's not a good
dangerous.
situation. Yes, that's
Yeah,
what I.
that's very dangerous. And the moment she crossed the road, and the moment the driver saw her and saw that she was a mommy, he reversed the
I
van
bet
we
he
were
did.
in, the vehicle we were in, reversed it at full speed. Yeah.
Captain, we have a problem.
Yeah.
Scotty, I need more power.
Yeah.
Wow.
Elephant mommies with their babies are very dangerous.
So I know back in my video days, I had a client in Kodiak, Tennessee, that had all the exotic animals that you would see on the commercials, the diamond, De Beers diamond commercials, that Black Panther. That Black Panther is called Midnight. In fact, on my arm, I still have where Midnight was kneading my arm, very sharp. Anyway,
Mm.
so did my point is, could you tell a distinctness in the smells of the animals? Were you close enough to actually?
Yeah, they most of the time, if we got very close to them, they wouldn't even let us open the windows.
Probably wise.
Um, yeah, because we also had monkeys. We didn't, you don't want animals to, you're not allowed to feed them or anything like
Good
that.
idea.
Um, yeah, so I mean, we were allowed to open the windows now and then to take photographs, but then it was because it was antelope that we were looking at. If it was lions, and then
Carnivorous
they,
type of creatures.
yeah,
Yeah.
and leopards and cheetah, no, those, very dangerous.
So
So,
back at camp, I've always wanted to know this because I've heard this. Is the ground there pretty well infested with ticks?
um, not really in
Okay.
the game parks because it's very dry and the ticks seem to want wet areas.
Okay. All right.
Um, but if you do walk along, you need boots because there are snakes everywhere.
Well, the hell with the ticks. Yeah, it's the damn snakes that'll kill you. Oh, my. Now, what part of Africa was this, Claudia?
This was in South Africa,
Okay.
the Kruger Park. It's a
Okay.
huge, between South Africa and Mozambique, there's this
Yeah. Okay.
huge game park.
I think this may have been the same one that National Geographic films from. So,
Uh-huh. Yeah, it's huge
wow.
and it's full of animals. It's very dry and very hot there.
How hot? I mean, I know in centigrade, so what would it be in Fahrenheit? I've heard about 105 sometimes in the
Yeah,
day.
something like that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It can go up to in the 40s in Celsius. So that would take you over 110, I think.
Oh, no, no, no.
Yeah, but it's a good place to go in winter because in winter you don't have a problem with malaria.
Well, that's a positive. Now
Yeah.
so we know, let's see. I'm checking this off of my list because I'm going to go talk to Lynn. I'm going to say, honey, you know that Servari we were talking about? Don't worry about the ticks. And if we go at the right time of year, screw the mosquitoes. It's the damn snakes that are going to get you. And they probably have a number of poisonous ones too, I imagine, right? They're all poisonous, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I went for walks, up the mountains in the Drakensberg, which is a mountain area. All along the escarpment in South Africa, you get high mountains, very beautiful. And they have tracks that you can walk along. But even there, you have to watch out for the snakes.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
And as we were talking, Claudia, that region of Africa is undergoing some, I think, underground, some tremendous changes that, that they say that whole area just might become much like Madagascar.
Yes, because that part, the eastern part of Africa is breaking up from the rest. And it's doing it very fast because of the Planet X objects that are just passing overhead and causing the ground to break up. So it accelerates it. And sometimes these fissures are opening up overnight and it's accelerating. Yeah, definitely. But it's not just there. It's all over the world that this is happening.
That's exactly it. I keep on seeing on, through the YouTube channel world that there are some that actually think that it's actually, the Planet X is now in the southern ecliptic of the plane. I don't know. I do know this. I watched the full moon this cycle. Claudia, on 2 nights particularly, the moon rose at a east-northeast position at about 33 degrees. The next day, it rose, are you ready for this? Almost due east.
Yeah, because the sky is a holographic projection. We're not seeing the real moon. We're seeing a holographic projection of the moon. And they cannot seem to get it right. I think they try harder with the sun, but with the moon, they get it wrong all the time. It rises up one way. It makes a rotation, which it's not supposed to do. The next night, it shifts position. It sometimes goes from a crescent to a full moon in one night. I've seen people who have videos of that.
Yeah, and this is a composition of that. They say that the moon rotates. I have never, ever, Claudia, seen the backside of the moon.
The moon is not supposed to rotate in the sky. That is ridiculous.
That's what I said. And it does wobble like a drunken sailor.
It wobbles because the sun simulators are just not keeping it right. They're just not able to keep it right. And notice that it can even be in different phases over different parts of the surface of the Earth. So
Yeah.
that cannot be the real moon. How can the moon look different from here, from what it does 600 miles away? It cannot. That's impossible. But it's happening because it's not the real moon. It's a holographic projection, and each region has its own projection.
And when you look at this, okay, if I were to apply Newtonian physics to what we're witnessing here, so we have a mass, a large mass, the moon, and if it looks into that type of orbit, that, let's just say that what we're seeing here is they're telling us that this is what's going on. My question is, Claudia, this type of rotation, how is there an opposing force working against the inertia of something that's this unstable?
Yeah, the thing is, what we would have here is the moon behaving like a spinning top. Its axis of rotation would itself be rotating. That's impossible. The moon has never done that. That is totally impossible.
That's what I'm thinking. And, I'll just get it here in this loop.
And the thing is, it would have a different axis of rotation depending on where you are on the surface of the Earth. That is ridiculous. How is that even possible? How can the moon go from a crescent to a full moon in the same night over a certain part from some observer's point of view and not others?
Listen, I'm getting people writing me that they're seeing two suns. I'm hearing stories of people early, this seems to be happening much more down near the equator. So anyway, I look at this and I'm saying, how is this? I don't understand the dynamics of how this is not just literally spinning out of control. I don't understand how opposing forces of gravity is allowing this to rock, like you said, a top.
No, yeah, it's spinning like a top. It's actually, it's the axis have now their own axis of rotation.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I'll stop it as Dr. Albers and I are talking. So look at this crater. I forget which one that is. I don't think it's Tycho, but let's check this out, Claudia. This is a wild wobble if this is what we're supposed to be seeing as real.
It's just
look
not
at that.
Possible.
All right, so right here alone.
Even if an object was approaching the Earth, it could cause the moon to do something. But it wouldn't go into this kind of oscillation, which is almost a regular oscillation. It couldn't do that at all. But as you know, we have evidence that the sun is not shining. If the sun is not shining, then we cannot see the real moon.
True.
Because there's no light to reflect off the real moon for us to see.
So, folks, look at this. I just put our 2 points of reference, and now I'll put in another one so everyone can see it. I'm glad we're doing this because this is the kind of stuff that bugs it bugs me. It's like, it bugs me, man. It's like, what are they doing to us here?
Precession of the moon's rotational axis. It's just not possible. I mean, why would the moon suddenly start doing this after having a regular orbit for thousands and thousands of years and not doing this? It makes no sense.
It makes none at all. And folks, we're doing something I've wanted to do for a long time. So look at this. We're seeing the actual elements right here going. I mean, and then of course it goes back and we hit. And there it is. We can see the dark side right here. And okay, Claudia, I don't understand it. We're learning from you, but I don't understand.
Now, to tell you the truth, I don't understand it either. I don't know how it's even possible for the moon to do something like this.
This is crazy.
Because you see, the moon's angular momentum is set.
Yeah.
You cannot just change the moon's angular momentum. It would need an external force acting on it for it to do this. And it just makes no sense.
Again, then I'm looking at this as
and
you
it would
said.
have to be a continuous force. In other words, it wouldn't just be the Earth's gravitational force on it. It would have to be another one, and it would have to keep it unbalanced continuously in order to do this.
So how do we keep a rotation here in the center and look at the, I don't, this, Claudia, this is freaking.
No, it makes no sense whatsoever. I understand you not understanding. I don't understand it either. I don't understand how the moon could possibly do that.
And some folks, I'm glad we're doing this. So let me stop this. Let me wait.
But it's never done this before. It's never done it. The moon always showed the same side to the Earth.
Yes.
Same side.
So
and it doesn't rotate along another axis. It's got its own axis of rotation, and that's what keeps it showing always the same side. The moon does not have two axes of rotation. It can only have one. And if it only always shows the same side to the Earth, it's because it's actually rotating at an axis that is perpendicular to the plane of rotation, which would go through the middle of the part that it always shows to Earth. So it rotates, and as it rotates, it moves. So it rotates and moves so that the same side always appears, always faces the Earth. So we know what its axis of rotation is. It cannot wobble like that because then it would need two axes, a pair of axes. It would have to rotate like this and rotate like that. That's impossible.
How does an object move from here to here?
Exactly. It's not possible.
How exactly, Claudia? And I can't see what the audience is watching us or not, but what they're reacting to. But there it is, right there, live for you folks. You can see how this is working. And then that's a hell of a declination.
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
What I'm saying is the moon's supposed to rotate like this, but now it's rotating like that.
Yes.
At the same time. It's impossible. It would be tumbling and rolling.
It would.
I think what it is they're having a problem with the sun simulators and keeping it in the right perspective for everybody. In other words, maybe the simulators are moving around in a circle over a certain region, and that causes the moon to do this. I think that may be why it's happening. And they try to explain it. I mean, I wrote an article about the fact that they say it's ice crystals in the atmosphere that's causing sun halos. And I mean, I've been saying it for a while, that is absolutely ridiculous. How can they even try to explain it with that? And they're coming up with all kinds of ridiculous excuses for things that make absolutely no sense. But they are doing that because they are desperate. And they are desperate because we reached a point where the number of these objects reaching Earth and they are entering our atmosphere is beyond belief. And I figured out that the reason why the skies are red most of the time is not so much because the clouds that form around the debris emits light. Sometimes they do, they are luminescent, but most of the times because it absorbs light. So Planet X dust absorbs light even from the sun simulator. So they have to add a whole lot of blue light because they mainly absorb blue light. Although in the beginning, when they first arrived, they absorb everything. And that's why we get these very dark clouds sometimes at the bottom of whatever clouds we see in the sky. Even though they're very diffuse clouds, they're very dark because they are forming around planet X dust, and they're absorbing light. And then after they've absorbed some light, they want to absorb some of the red. That's why the skies are turning red. But what they are doing is throughout the day, they're using the simulators to add a lot of blue light to the sky so that the sky looks normal. And then at sunset, at sunrise, they turn it down, not as much blue light. That's why we can see red skies.
Here in Colorado, my wife and I mean, I get up typically at 4 o'clock because something keeps waking me up, but that doesn't matter. So I have a chance to walk outside, whether it's freezing cold or not. Claudia, the sun rises, and today is a typical day, was crystal blue sky. And by the way, what is going on with Venus? Now, I've been watching Venus all my life. I could almost, if the moon is not, it's coming into new moon, Venus was so bright, it was almost like it was shining a light.
Yeah.
But my point is that we're getting pink sunrises, sundawns. It's pink. It's no longer blue with a contrast of white.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's pink because there's so much stellar core dust or planet X dust, and it's absorbing other colors more than red. So there's red, and then there's always some extra blue around. And so when you combine red and blue, you get pink.
You know what I was thinking, Claudia? I was going to text you, and I went, nah. But here was the point. I got the feeling like I'm almost living on Mars.
Yeah.
You know, go ahead.
I mean, if it wasn't for the simulators adding a whole lot of blue to the skies, we would be living in a constantly red lighting condition, either red or black, because sometimes they just absorb everything and it will get very dark. And that may be one of the reasons why we're experiencing such low lighting conditions, even during the day where we are living. And people have been noticing that, where by 3 o'clock, it's almost like it's getting to nighttime, and you never see the sun most of the day. Sometimes a little bit in the morning, it looks like the sky is a little bit blue, and then it goes gray. But it's not a normal gray, because it doesn't look like there are clouds in the sky that are thick enough to produce that gray color. It looks like it's an artificial gray. Sometimes a little pale blue is seen in the sky. So it's obviously a simulated sky, but they're not able to even make it blue anymore. It just looks gray.
And I agree. And someone said magenta. And yes, the magenta is in there. The purple.
Yeah, magenta is a mixture of red and blue.
It's pretty far out, because we saw it. My wife actually was up, and she said, "Look at this." And I said, "I know what's going on." So I want to get to some of your papers that you wrote, because I thank you on this one. You did some great work in helping explain the event that now is the more this goes on, the more the mystery deepens, Claudia.
Yes, this was very strange that there was the signal, because it's only surface waves. You know, if you have a normal earthquake, you get the P wave, the S wave, and then the surface waves. And the P wave arrives first. It has the lowest amplitude, and then the S wave has a higher amplitude. And it always starts with a higher amplitude, and then it tones down a little, whilst the surface waves build up, and then they decay. And this is just surface waves. And you can see it looks like there's a pattern within a pattern there. So it doesn't look normal. It looks very regular, and to me, very artificial.
It wasn't until you said this, because I actually have these graphs as well. And by golly, Dr. Albers, I think you may be on to something. I think you actually, and I'm going to advance this.
Yeah.
That is a signal within a signal.
Yes. It is. It's just like two signals superimposed on each other. but yet it's in one, because I mean the needle can only make one at a time, but in between it goes into that, as it goes through the bottom, it does that heavier one, in the middle, and it's very regular. Look how regular it is.
And I'm trying to get these both into frame here, because this is what you were talking about. In a normal earthquake, we will see the P waves come in, then we have the S waves with and then we get the quake.
Yeah, and then the surface waves. But the thing is, we need at least two types of waves to figure out the distance to the epicenter. You cannot figure out the distance to the epicenter with only surface waves. You may have been able to do it with S waves and surface waves, or P. Usually it's done with the P and the S. The time difference between the two allows you to calculate how far you are from the epicenter. And then you do triangulation to figure out with other stations to figure out where the epicenter is. Now, so the fact that they are saying it originated from, off the coast of Africa.
Yeah.
That's total nonsense. There was no way they could have calculated where the epicenter of this earthquake or where this wave originated.
Thank you, Claudia.
There's only one wave.
And thank you. So, ladies and gentlemen, those of you that are watching this live, those of you that will be watching this in the reposting, it did not have a signature. How could it have been an epicenter when it did not have any of the P waves or the S waves associated with it?
That's right.
When I looked at this, Claudia, and I'm going to do a lot more work because you actually hit on something as I began to really look at this. I have a friend who is a former U.S. Navy sonic submariner.
Mm-hmm.
And so I pulled this up to look at what you were talking. Look at the density waves.
Yeah.
That is look at this. It is so uniform.
It is. And you can see there are parallelograms inside there, a very regular shape to that. It's just not natural. It's not natural for something like this. That's why I think they were artificially generated. And I don't think they're natural.
How, in fact, that is your conclusion. I happen to agree with you wholeheartedly. So could we speculate possibly here on what is going on here?
So what I think it is the powers that be are sending out the message that they are ready to bring in the New World Order, because they planned through this monument, the Veterans Monument, for on 11th November at 11:11 a.m. that the sun, well, it's not the real sun, it's a simulator, but the sun to shine through those holes and fall on the great eagle of the United States, which a lot of people think is actually a phoenix. And this monument is in Phoenix, Arizona.
Brian and I are going to be doing a show on the fiery serpent, feather serpent, over on Milky Way Weekly. But when I saw this was brilliant. So, all right, let's get the synchronicity on this one.
Yeah, they planned this basically by doing this, And then there's the phoenix that appeared in the aurora over Norway on the 11th as well. Now, how did they plan that? Well, of course, because we have simulated sky, so they can do the aurora in whatever shape they want. They use the skies as a screen.
Yeah, and I when this happened, it was one of those that I'm not sure how light waves do that, but I'm going to do a program on what's happening around everywhere now. People are seeing it. People who are not even what I would call aware are now seeing, 11111111.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of that myself.
So have I. But I want to get back here again. This was remarkable because I have not seen anyone actually bring out the fact. And as you look at these, and what I call these sine waves.
Hmm.
And you can begin to see how they're generated. This is interesting. It's a
Very interesting,
signal.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's two signals in there. And because there's a pattern within a pattern, it's a very regular pattern. The frequency throughout is constant. It's a constant frequency. There's no way you can get that you can have a natural surface wave with an absolutely constant frequency throughout.
I don't see how you can either. And the fact that as well is that this was at a depth of exactly 6.2 miles all around the world. I don't understand how they did that either.
Yeah, the thing is, I don't even know how they would calculate that because, as I said, there's only one type of wave here.
Yeah. All right. So I love this one. I'm going to look into more of this. This one is so cool. All right. So this one is the talk, I would say, within the last week or so. I have a theory on this, but let's talk about this. This is.
So people someone filmed this. Mm-hmm. It was not seen all over the world. That's one of the things. It was
Michigan.
From somewhere, right, a point on the surface of the Earth.
Yeah.
Now, first of all, if this had been the real sun with an object next to it, you'd expect a lot of the world's population to have seen this at the same time, and that did not happen. But the most important part is, can you see the straight lines in the outline of what is supposed to be the sun?
Yeah, and we can actually
see that. So it's hexagonal. You can see it's hexagonal. So that's not the real sun. That's a simulator.
What do you...
We have an object. So there are two possibilities. Either we have an object in the Earth's atmosphere that is attracted to the simulator, and that's a possibility, or this is a holographic projection. So it's one of the two, but this is not the real sun.
And, when you begin to look at simulators, and the opportunity is that, as I told people yesterday, now, in my garage, I have my telescope set up, and I can actually pull them out, and I get the perfect view of the east. So I get to see that. And so on this particular day, I go out there and I check it when I can, when it's a bright, clear sky. So this is very odd.
It is very odd. But it is possible that they are attracted to the simulators because they are attracted to energy and light, and the simulators are emitting light. It then would be quite a small one because the simulators are not that large. There are many of them. Each section, they've probably divided up the whole surface of the Earth into sections, and each one will have a whole lot of devices that simulate the sun, the moon, the planets, the stars, whatever. So, and the blue sky. So there's quite a lot of devices over each region of the Earth. But the simulators cannot be that large. They are actually in the atmosphere. So this particular, if it is a stellar core, it's very small.
The one that they're proposing that.
Yeah. And then I say, look, even though this may be a holographic projection, because some of the simulators are holographic projections, especially at sunset and sunrise, they tend to use the ones that are holographic projections, where you can see I have some images of an airplane flying through one. So we know they are holographic projections. But during the day, let's go back. I just wanted to say that these are real objects. These objects are real. We saw them in the sun's corona through the SDO images. And so they are real. They really exist. And I've explained many times, they've been coming in for thousands of years. And in the last 100 years or so, they've, I think, increased greatly in number, the ones that are coming in. And the sun that's when the sun started weakening to the point that now it doesn't emit light anymore. It may emit infrared still, It's not emitting visible light. And I believe that is because these objects have removed the sun's corona. It has no corona, no atmosphere, so it cannot emit light. And we could see it decreasing over the years. So that's the most likely reason. But these are old images where we could see these objects in the sun's corona, which is the sun's atmosphere, and they were making gravitational connections with the sun. What are those gravitational connections? They're actually what are called solar tornadoes, because they are tornadoes. And they do the same thing when they enter the Earth's atmosphere. They cause tornadoes, gravitational vortex connections with the Earth. Exactly the same. What they do with the sun, you can see they enter the sun's atmosphere. So they will enter the Earth's atmosphere. But they will not collide. I have another article where I explain that again very carefully. They never collided with the sun. They will never collide with the Earth because they positively charged. They're like two north poles of a magnet that repel each other once they get very close. So there's no collision. That's why they can hover in the atmosphere. They can pull matter towards them because of their gravitational force, but they will not collide with the Earth.
Yeah, I have a theory as well with the aerosol spraying as well that I don't know if people have thought very well. By the way, I think that's a ship. I think that there's an armada up there. That's just me.
I think there is a lot of cloaked device and tech and technology up there in the sky. Yes, I believe that as well.
If you look at film and you look at film as a polymer, so allow me to digress here a second, Claudia. Back in the day, I used to do the lighting effects for rock and roll bands that would come through the club that we were at. We had some good bands in there. George Harrison came through. Anyway, my point was this. So back in those days, we would literally have to get an overhead projector. And what we would do is that we would have the base, which would be water, right? And then we would begin to mix dyes with certain types of oils. And then you pour that onto the water and that sheen goes out and then it begins to create the psychedelic effects people remember from the late 60s and the early 70s. I was looking at what they were doing to our skies on Thursday, and folks here in Denver and Colorado Springs, we all noticed it. There was at one time I counted 26 chemtrails in the sky. And as I was looking at that, it hit me. Something took me back to those days. Let's take, for argument's sake, Claudia, that this is, and I'm going to use the word firmament. Okay. You could also use a word like a filament, but I think that what they're having to do, that this has to do with also being able to project whatever images is there. As this disperses through the atmosphere, these nanoparticles begin to bind together up there, which causes the effect that you could do a hologram covering and people wouldn't need to be any wiser about it.
I think you're right there. I think they are using the nanoparticles almost like a screen. But it's not only that, because the nanoparticles, over here, it seems to be covering up two objects because you can see two crescents there at the top.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can see another one at the bottom. I show it in the next image.
Where's this?
You can see crescent right there somewhere at the bottom there. They're just, what I said was there's at least three objects here that are hidden because the chemtrail clouds are straight lines. But when you see these perfect rounded shapes, even though they're not complete, they're perfectly circular, then we know that we have these objects all there. And this is what they're trying to hide. They're trying to hide these objects. And they are projecting onto the nanoparticles, as you say, especially from the bottom, because they have simulators turned upwards to create the blue sky. And that's why we get shadows as well.
By the way, I'm going to look at this. I just now saw this as you were talking on this one here. This is a craft. Let me show you what I mean by that.
Yeah, but that over there is actually a shadow.
I know it's a shadow. I think that what I'm trying to say is that if I remove the annotation off that, when you were talking, I see, let me pull this up here and get closer. It's a perfect 90-degree point.
Oh, yes, I do see that.
That is not natural in nature. That is a perfect 90-degree angle. Do you see the ship?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's what I see. I mean, what else is causing? Look at that. I don't know, Claudia. That's the first time, and I know we've looked at
I mean, I know there are lots of things in the sky. We do not have a normal sky, a natural sky at all. I think they have lots and lots of devices, even probably whole cities in the sky.
I think you're right. I think they do.
Yeah.
I just want to pull this up for my own curiosity. This one, I just don't see how nature, there it is, right there.
Mm.
Wow. This is fun. This tells me that, we don't know what we're seeing in the sky.
Yeah, they're trying to hide all that is happening. And the fact that these objects are coming into the atmosphere. And in the bottom one, I actually show the one that you found the other day that I had not seen.
Which one?
Yeah, that one. Go back up.
Yes.
This one here, it's a little round circle somewhere there.
I see it. My eye is immediately.
Yeah, there it is. You're the one that found that one the other day.
Yeah. Let me see. Where are you?
And it's a perfectly circular cloud. And you know that these objects are always immersed in cloud. So that's what it is. That's one of the objects right there.
I mean,
it's not a lens because lenses are transparent. You don't need to cloak them with cloud.
Look at that. I still look at that and I don't know, Claudia. They
in the atmosphere.
Yeah, they are. They absolutely are. There's no doubt about it.
Mm-hmm.
And you stare at this long enough, and then you begin to say, okay, well, I can see the chemtrail, but this object is even above the chemtrail.
Yeah, it is. And now you also know why they did that chemtrail, because they're trying to hide that object.
Thank you. I think that's the conclusion that you have to look at. And there, you can see it. It is just so blatantly in your face, but most people will just pass that by.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't see it before until you saw it.
Yeah, you're going in there. Okay, it's like this is getting close.
Yeah,
very close. Look at that.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah, it's just plain as this one. This one is still probably some of the hardest evidence that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And again, that came from you as well. Mm-hmm. This is unbelievable because we have a dark object inside, immersed in cloud. This is exactly what we expect. And we can see it's a spherical dark object. This is a stellar core. It's inside our atmosphere. They are here in our atmosphere, just like they were in large numbers in the sun's atmosphere. But the thing is, they are not benign. These are destroyers. They absorb energy, and through that energy absorption, they destroy planets and stars.
I still get that mental image of a vampire.
That's a good way. Because they are dead. And because they are dead and energy depleted, they absorb energy from other objects. They have low gravitational influence. So they act as if they have very little mass, very low gravitational influence. But because they can come so close, because they depleted in electrons, Most objects have an outer layer high in electrons. So if they come close enough, their outer layers will repel and they'll move away. But these objects have no outer negative layer. All they have is a positive core, positively charged core. So they can go right into the atmosphere of other celestial objects. It's only when they are in the atmosphere of other celestial objects that then there will be a repelling force and they won't collide. The two surfaces won't collide. But they can go in the atmosphere. And in the atmosphere, because they're so close, even though their gravitational influence is so low, but it's still high enough to create gravitational waves, to create tornadoes, to pull matter off the surface of that planet. As long as they're smaller than the planet, they can. If they are larger than the planet, they cannot directly pull matter from off the planet, because then the planet will have a stronger attraction for that matter than the object. That's why we have smaller ones inside our atmosphere doing this.
And I'm going to pull up into the archives, Claudia, the one that I captured in 2014 here at my house, literally as it emerged over the mountains, and perfectly got it on camera. And I think this also explains, Claudia, why a person can be in one part of the country and someone literally being 200 miles to the south of them would never see it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the sky is massive.
Yeah.
It's big out there.
It is.
I think we're going to see more of these.
Yeah, I mean, this is the real cause. What we have is these objects inside those clouds producing these are gravitational vortices. They are pulling matter from the surface of the earth through these vortices. And ocean water, the water spouts are basically tornadoes over water. Mm-hmm. This is what we have. We have solid spherical objects, Planet X objects inside those clouds, creating those things.
And people, we know that this is all over. It's on mainstream news now.
Yeah, but they'll never admit that it's actually celestial objects. These are moon cores, planetary cores. I doubt that these are stellar, star cores, because star cores would be a lot larger, would be outside our atmosphere. I mean, they can still come in so that the surface of the star actually goes into the atmosphere of the Earth, but they are much, much larger than the Earth and will not be able to pull matter off. But what happens is they have electrical discharges with the atmosphere. And when that happens, then the electrons can flow directly towards the object. And that's how they can steal the Earth's atmosphere. That's what they did with the sun. The sun actually reacted to them and ejected corona towards them. That was the current flowing towards them. And then they captured the sun's corona.
So I was having a discussion about how someone was saying, well, how can there be so many objects, around the Earth and even in this, space itself in the solar system? And I recall an episode on Star Trek Next Generation where they entered into a quadrant of space that was surrounded by time distortion bubbles. Mm-hmm. And they were of all size and of all intensity. But when they could adjust their instruments, and I say that the only reason why we can't see these now is this: we just don't understand the technology, how to begin to spot them. Maybe they already do. I don't know. But I contend that man hasn't advanced far enough to fully understand the dynamics of what's being played out right in our atmosphere.
Yeah, I think that the powers that be have made our educational system and what we have been allowed to learn so that it is impossible for most of the world's population to actually attain understanding of what's going on and why these objects, what these objects are, what they are doing, and how is this possible. because for me, it was a relearning process. I had to throw away a lot what I had been trained with as a physicist in order to understand what was going on. But as far as I see, the solar system is inside this system. It's all around us. And these objects have been coming in as comets for thousands of years. And we've been lied about comets. Comets, we say, oh, they're little objects, just little ice balls, and no problem. They just come to the sun. They burn up in the sun. No problem. But it's not. Some of them are larger than the sun. They are not made out of ice. They are dead stars, a lot of them. And it's not, if you have one dead star, and it was one huge solar system once, one huge planetary system would have gone with it. It would have had perhaps 100 planets with it.
Makes sense.
And each planet its own moon. So how many objects do you end up with each star? Maybe 1,000? And now they just cores, because now the whole outer layers of the object is gone. All you're left with is the little core.
Interesting.
And the debris field around it. But you have thousands upon thousands upon thousands of them.
Now, this one here, we discussed on this one, it's still weird when you still see it now.
Yeah. It's an amazing photograph, that you found, Wayne, because it's obvious that it's an object that moved down over this point on the surface of the Earth and then moved up again. That's the only way it could produce that kind of circular pattern inside which the ground broke up, but not outside, because these objects are spherical and they produce spherical waves. But on the surface, they will create a rounded wave pattern. It's got ups and downs, and as the object moved, then it condensed the region where it affected less and less, and then as it moved up, it moved outwards again. So the ground contracted and expanded as this wave, increased in size, decreased in size, and then expanded again. So the ground, contracted, expanded. What happens? It broke.
Yeah. I can remember having a conversation with Adam Savage of the Mythbusters. That looks like a concussion wave to me.
Yeah, basically, it is something like that, but the object did not hit. It did not hit.
Right.
But its gravitational influence, as it gets closer, it increases.
It's amazing.
And these objects, gravity is not just attraction. It's attraction and repulsion. So it's got a ring where there is attraction, so the density will decrease of the ground along that ring. But then it's got a wider ring, after that, outside that edge, where the density will be increased.
It's still remarkable. I mean, that you don't see.
It is remarkable. And this is why it creates ocean recession events when it's over the ocean.
Well, you could see that. You could literally see that. I would agree with you. I think we got another time, Dr. Albers. I found this one to be very interesting.
Yes, I had encountered these stones before, and I think I came to the wrong conclusion. I said they were artificially made.
Mm-hmm.
But now I realize that that's not possible, because, one of the accepted theories is that they have been carved by man, but these ones that have been found, these are found all over the world. That one there at the top is in Bosnia, and it's got a diameter of 10 feet.
Wow. And is this made out of stone?
Well, they made out of different materials. That particular one seems to be very high in iron, a lot like the meteorites.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Very high. And those ones, I've forgotten where. It says there at the bottom. I think some are in Mexico. Bosnia.
New Zealand,
Mexico, and Costa Rica.
Yes.
So they are found all over the world, different sizes.
Yeah.
And it's amazing that there are so many everywhere.
And so
But
many different terrains, so many
yeah.
diversity. Yeah.
Mhm. And they're made out of different things. Some are igneous rock, in other words, rock that has melted because of heat and then solidified again, volcanic rock usually. And some is made out of sandstone. And they saying that it's, carved by man. But
I
why?
don't see this.
No,
How
that's
can
not
man?
possible, especially since the ones that have been found in this Arctic island, it belongs to Russia. And these ones, I think you can see, there they are. That's where that island is, called Champ Island in the Arctic. It's right there in the middle of the Arctic. Now, there were no human beings 1,400 years ago in this part of the world to carve these things, were they? Now, that's not possible. So they were not carved by human beings. So
Maybe it was a giant dung beetle of prehistoric times. I don't
in the ice, I don't
know.
think.
Well, I don't know. That is pretty
Yeah,
bizarre as to how that could even happen.
exactly. So it's not possible. So what I think actually happens is when these objects, the Planet X objects, come in towards the Earth, they may be electrical discharges between these cores and the Earth's atmosphere. And in between, there will be these objects, this dust. And when this dust is in the discharge, it will suddenly get energy and it will gain gravitational influence and it will get hot and molten and it may self-gravitate into a spherical surface. And then here I was just the other theory they have is that it's actually formed inside the Earth. And I was saying nothing that is formed on the surface of the Earth is perfectly spherical, because even the rounded stones that we have in rivers and oceans are never perfectly spherical. They're oval. And the reason why they're oval is because they always have to contend with the Earth's gravitational force, which pulls it downward. So no matter, the ocean may be exerting a force on it, but there's always the force due to the Earth that pulls it downwards. And that's what causes these objects to be oval. And if they're in any position that's not oval, they're not in balance. So something's going to happen to cause them to end up in a horizontal position.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So where you can find objects forming into spheres is when they are outside the gravitational field of a planet or they are in free fall. They're falling,
Okay.
so they don't have the gravitational force acting on them because they're falling under that gravitational force. So at that point, if they become molten and they attractive enough to each other, the particles, then they will form a sphere. So I think these spheres are actually formed in space when Planet X system stellar cores approach the Earth, and there's this discharge between the two. And then some of the dust that's in it is in the discharge, suddenly gains energy. Well, some of the dust may not become molten, in which case you will get the sandstone. Some of the dust may get hot enough to become molten, and then we get the igneous rock and maybe the high iron content. So I explain it here with this diagram. So you have a stellar core with its debris field, and then you have the electrical discharges, and then there will be dust that will be inside those discharges. And it will possibly self-gravitate because it suddenly gains energy from the discharge. It gains electrons, it absorbs light, suddenly has energy so it can self-gravitate into a sphere. And then it will fall through the atmosphere, but when it falls through the atmosphere, it may not have gained enough gravitational energy yet to fall very fast. In other words, it will still have a weak gravitational influence, so it will settle down onto the ground slowly enough so it does not get destroyed on impact. And
You
that's
know,
why,
I was thinking of a hailstone. It's the same
yeah.
principle where water is coming in.
Yeah, so I think we then would have hailstones made out of this material
Yeah.
that may even be on fire coming down.
I mean, that makes sense to me. It really does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of meteors that we may be seeing coming through and maybe landing intact are actually Planet X debris. They're not stellar cores, so they can impact the ground. They don't have a positively charged core. They're made out of the debris that surrounds the core of the object. So they can impact, they can reach the surface.
Do you think I'm going to stop the share on this? Do you think we're going to see more of this?
I think that because of the sun's weakness, there will be more and more coming to all the planets in the solar system. I think the Earth will attract more and more of these objects. They'll most likely, if they're still coming into the solar system, they'll probably go to the sun first, and then they will go out to the planets. They will basically destroy the planets bit by bit. They will tear them apart. The atmospheres first, and then they'll go on to the inner layers. Slowly. There's no way. There's no way to escape it. You cannot stop them. If there is still energy anywhere, they will be attracted to that energy.
Man, I mean, this is like a horde of, the Wraith. They're coming in to suck us dry. Yeah. Well, we're going to continue to follow this each week, Dr. Albers. This is what we bring to the audience, and I think we surpassed 500 in here today. So
that's wonderful.
Yeah, want to say thank you to all the moderators. Hey, Sue G, all the moderators. Brian, good to see you, and all you folks. So, Dr. Albers, you want to have to say anything to the audience as we exit out of this? I'm just going, wow.
I'm saying that the truth may be hard to hear, but it is the truth. This is what we have to deal with on this planet. Our only hope is that God eventually removes them. Our only hope is God. Only He can do anything about it. And so, I always like to say, you are afraid, reach out to God. You need Him.
There you go, folks. There you go. Yeah. Well said, Dr. Albers. I'll tell you, I value you as a friend and as a colleague. It's always an exciting time here. I just want to say thank you. You bring us such knowledge, and it's great to be able again to have the ability to have a brilliant mind share your thoughts.
Yeah, thank you. It's the truth. It's scary that this is happening to our solar system, but we have to deal with it. It's the truth. This is what's happening. There's no way out of this.
I'll close with the immortal words of Winston Churchill. When you're going through hell, don't stop. So, Dr. Albers, as our navigator and guide, I think we'll be able to traverse this, and at least we're going to have a much more greater expansion of awareness.
Yeah, thank you.
I thank you. Thank you to all the audience and our March on America.
Yes, March for America.
Yeah, thank you, folks.
Yeah, and I forgot to say that I was actually interviewed by Russian television some months ago. And the program actually aired on Russian television the other day. So I was
Did it? Do you have the link?
I don't know. I think Scott has it. I've got the video somewhere. I can send them to you.
Please do, and we will post it. Yeah. So how was it?
Yeah, I think they said that it had very high reviews or something. Very, or a lot of people watched it, and so they were very happy. It's actually a Russian TV station that
interviewed
me.
Well, folks, if there's any of that, that's good. I want to see that, Claudia. That would be exciting.
Yeah.
High five. That's all I got to say.
Yeah.
Oh, so again, it's just it's a thrill to be on this journey with you. I have to say that. Well, everyone, if you haven't subscribed, go over there. I've seen your channels growing too, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Taking a pretty good jump.
yeah, it's good. I'm glad that more people are watching because,
Well,
I'd like as many people as possible to know about what's going on. And it's still, we have a huge world population. Very few people actually know what's really going on.
true. We sometimes forget this. We're an enclave here.
Yeah.
We're amongst friends, and it gets us spoiled.
Yeah.
It does. Well, all right. We'll give my best to Scott.
Thank you. I
Tell
will.
him he needs to come back on. So we'll need to bring
Yes.
him on again. All right.
Okay. I'll tell him.
Okay. It's like, okay. Well, I'm going to exit out. Everyone, be
Okay.
good to yourselves. Again, thank you, everyone. Remember, this is a journey. And as Claudia say, when you find that salvation, you find that point, rest in it. That's what I say.
Mm-hmm.
Would you say that makes pretty good sense?
Yes. I think that God will eventually come and do something about it. But in the meantime,
Otherwise, he's
we're
going to have to
facing bad
recreate it.
times. Yeah, we're facing really bad times, and we need him.
Yeah. Well, we'll keep the ship here positive, and come what may, we're going to see this thing through, Dr. Albers. We will. All right, folks. Much love. Thank you for being here. Claudia, thank you again. You. I'll see you next week. Keep warm.
Thank you, and my best to Lynn.
I will. I'll let her know that. All right, my dear. We'll see you later. All right. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.